Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame community. I'm Pierre, here to break down what just happened in Week 13. It's not over yet, of course. You know that in about an hour, we'll kick off with the Sunday night game and then, of course, Monday night. But for now, let's talk about what just went down, some of the booms, some of the busts, and some big injuries, a few big ones, unfortunately. And then, of course, we'll get to your comments. So, Chris, still going to be with us on the Tuesday night show. Don't forget, we go live to talk about waiver wire and trades for those who still have trades. But I'm holding down the fort tonight. And then we'll be, of course, doing our usual start sit, waiver wire, everything you need to know to help you win for week 14. That's right. We're already looking ahead. But first, we have to look back. So when we get to your comments, I'm going to post them up. I'm going to try to do as many as possible. You guys already know because you're with us all the time. Our amazing community. If you do the super chat, guarantee we'll put your question up there or your comment. And if you haven't already, for those who may be new or new-ish, well, first of all, hit the like and subscribe button. You subscribe and you'll see just what I'm talking about, how much content we put out almost every day to try to help you win at fantasy. You can join the Discord. It's absolutely free. We've been on there all day talking football in our game day discussion channel. And also looking ahead, reacting, everything you need to know. Discord is free, and if you look in the description, you should be able to join there. Also, you can become a patron. This morning, had a nice long 2-hour chat with our patrons, talking about all their start-sit decisions for all their leagues and everything else too. So it's patreon.com/fantasyfootballendgame. Or you can look at the link that's down below. All right, so real quick, now I'm not going to go down everything that just happened because it's a lot, and I want to get to the comments and start some of the interaction online. But Lamar Jackson did get hurt. That's a big one. It's not season ending. I know some people are worried. They even came out and said not anything too serious, but there's a good chance he'll miss next week. I mean, just right now, I think he said, Harbaugh said something like it's days to weeks, not like months or anything like that. But he used the word week, not day to day. He didn't say day to day. He said it's either days or weeks. Okay, so might be without Lamar. I feel like there's a good chance we might be with Lamar next week and maybe the week after. So if you've been using him at quarterback, I mean, make other plans. Tyler Huntley, I mean, you saw last year he filled in nicely. He does a lot of the same things. Obviously, that rushing floor is nice. There's no way he gives you that same ceiling. And man, this Baltimore offense really hasn't been that great even with Lamar this year because he's just got nobody to throw to. I really feel bad for him. I don't think it's his fault. He's doing what he can, but like his number one receiver is Devin Duvernay. Like, no offense, but he's not a number one guy. Number two is Demarcus Robinson. So, I mean, it's just a struggle. Yeah, Mark Andrews is there, but yeah. So anyways, make plans to be without Lamar. And then the other one, I know we're all worried about Kenneth Walker. We'll see what happens. It's an ankle injury. Again, not a knee, but still. I mean, hopefully he's all right. And then you did see Seattle. Man, what about Geno? I mean, talk about some of the good performances. The Rams actually did not roll over. I did say I want no part of this Rams offense. I'm not really changing my mind on that, although Cam Akers. But still, like, the Rams didn't roll over. They fought. They tried to win. It was their defense that kept them in it. But, man, Geno made that comeback at the end. 367 yards. I don't know if y'all realized that just now. Geno Smith finished with 367 and 3 touchdowns. And both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf went off big, huge games. So, yeah, and I know our Michael is happy about that. Michael Fawcett, not just because he's a Seahawks fan, but he started Tyler Lockett. He wasn't quite sold, which I'm not sure why he wouldn't be. But, yeah. All right, so there's that. On the other side, Detroit, they're kind of winning lately. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but they're kind of winning. But the big thing there, I think, is DeAndre Swift. Obviously, thought he would go off this week. Chris called him as a boom. I mean, it's not like staggering numbers, but if you look all together, I think he had 111 yards and a touchdown. But I think what's the most encouraging thing is he actually got more carries than Jamal Williams. I haven't checked the logs for all season, but I'm willing to guess that it's been a long time, maybe back till maybe the beginning of the season since that happened. He had more carries, and he had, of course, more targets and catches than Jamal Williams. Of course, Jamal Williams still found a way to score a touchdown, right? I mean, they seem to all – how is it every week Detroit finds a way to get down to the 1-yard line? and then Jamal Williams gets a touchdown. But anyways, yeah, DeAndre Swift, I don't know, league winner down the stretch. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But that was good news. And on the other side of that, yeah, Trevor Lawrence is not for real. I mean, it's not. Last week it clearly was kind of just a fluke. I mean, there's no excuse. The game script totally favored the passing game having to do the heavy lifting here. It was Detroit. They were down. It was a bad defense. I don't care how much better Detroit's playing. That defense is still giving up a lot to a lot of teams. Trevor Lawrence really had no excuse. So, yeah, you can forget about that. I said, I'm going to be real curious to see what happens there. Well, now we know what's going to happen. He's just okay. And then Travis Etienne was, I mean, he was okay. But, again, a lot of it maybe the game script. They just couldn't run the ball as much as they wanted to. So, I guess so. And then Mike White. I mean, obviously not like he did last week. You look and you say, oh, he threw for 369 yards. Yeah, because he threw the ball 57 times. I mean, it's hard not to put up numbers when you throw the ball that much. But, I mean, realistically, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I know that one in the end was kind of a desperation in the end zone, but still, that's not good. I mean, so I kind of a mixed bag for him. I mean, he kept them in it. He didn't play terribly. He put up numbers sort of, but not very accurate. But I think the big takeaway is that we're still all happy and hoping that he stays quarterback rest of the season because Garrett Wilson is clearly the real deal. I mean, I'm not going to go so far as say we're going to put him as a no doubt rest of the year must start, but I don't know what it would take to get him out of your lineup. You'd have to have a pretty stacked wide receiver room. And Corey Davis even kind of did some things. And Zonovan Knight, not too bad. Again, I was a little leery about starting him. I mean, again, if you sat him in your team in fantasy, you didn't miss too much. 90 yards, but no touchdown. He was fine. But, I mean, the fact that he did fine in this game when they were losing and it was against a decent team, I mean, I think that's pretty hopeful for the rest of the season going forward. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we get to the comments is the Dolphins. Yeah, a letdown. Tua was just off. Like, if you look at it, I mean, he finally finished over 50% completion. That's good. He almost had 300 yards, 5 yards short of 300, and threw a pair of touchdowns, but he threw 2 interceptions, and that's what hurts. There is the interception. Then there were some passes that were just off, like a couple of easy ones he missed. This 49er defense is obviously good, one of the best in the league, but he also was a little bit off. And Jalen Waddle being gone for half the game didn't help either. And the running game really didn't help him. That's the thing. Like nobody could run the ball. So Jeff Wilson, I don't want to say you can drop him just because of this, but I'm not a must hold either. I don't think not a must hold. All right. Not surprised. Here we go. Tristan wasting no time firing shots that even though they had a backup quarterback, that's right. Jimmy G is out, by the way. We'll see how long that injury lasts. Whether Brock Purdy, who is Mr. Irrelevant, the very last player taken in the NFL draft, a rookie, still beat the Dolphins. I don't think they lost because of Brock Purdy. I mean, they lost because they have Christian McCaffrey now, and they didn't really need to do too much in the passing game because, again, those interceptions, the defense is basically what won them the game. Niners are for real. They're legit. That's what it is. 49ers defense. And a lot of people are asking questions about streaming defenses, like who to play, who to keep the rest of the season. And there's some defenses that I don't even care the matchups. Just roll with them. 49ers are one. Dallas, I think, other than that one game where they play Philly in week 16, but other than that, just don't question it. I mean, you saw what they did today. So anyways, 49ers, they are good. I mean, I think they do want Jimmy G back, though. All right, it's cryptic. Yeah, Kelsey, I mean, he can't score 3 touchdowns every week, can he? I mean, there's going to be games where he's just okay. But it happens. Like, what can he do? And then, of course, injuries, part of the game. You can't do anything about that. Let's just hope with K9, man, it is not long-term. It doesn't seem like it is. But, again, he didn't return at all. And it wasn't even a question. So we'll see. Hopefully Walker is back because Tony Jones didn't look like the most efficient replacement. All right, Mr. Jones. You forgot to put 2 people in. All right, that's not the ideal way to go setting your lineups. But okay, so let's see. You got some options at least. 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. So Pittman, Schultz, or White. I'm not going to worry about the fact that he still has Lenny. You know, if going White versus Lenny, say who's going to get you the most points. Well, if you're saying 1 wide receiver, I guess you don't have an option. It has to be Pittman, I'm guessing. So who do you flex between Schultz and White? I think I have to go with White. I'm not too worried about the Lenny thing. I think White's still the 1A there. I think he's fine. He's got a good matchup against New Orleans. That defense hasn't been good. So, you know, Schultz, if Schultz does score a touchdown and White doesn't, yeah, maybe he finishes with more points. But I think White is the move there. All right, so let's get to musics. What is up? Christian Watson, Fields, D-Hay, Browns defense, and Dalvin Cook. You had all of those on your roster. All right, well then you're feeling pretty good. I mean, let's just give a shout out to the Browns defense because they basically won some people their weeks, which is one of the reasons you could say maybe you shouldn't start team defenses in fantasy. But I get it. Look, nothing wrong with having defenses or kickers. Kickers is so fluky. Like you don't want a kicker to decide your matchup, but it is still part of the game. I mean, look how many real life games in the NFL are decided by kickers. So I think it makes sense for fantasy. Team defenses, same thing. It's part of it. You playing matchups. It's part of the strategy of fantasy football. I mean, you hate for a defense to single-handedly beat you. Who was it? I think there was somebody in the Discord saying that they basically lost to Cleveland's defense. They were kind of like this week's Josh Jacobs. It happens. But look, I will say this. We've been talking for a couple of weeks now. The Houston defense, their run defense being so bad, it's like you have to stream whatever running back, play running backs against Houston's defense. At this point, especially after we saw, I mean, Saquon Barkley didn't destroy Houston's defense. He needed a ton of carries. Nick Chubb didn't destroy Houston's defense today. Jeff Wilson kind of bombed against Houston's defense. I think we have to kind of push that a little bit to the side. I think we just need to go ahead and stream against Houston with a defense because Kyle Allen, as long as he's still in, has proven he can actually somehow make this offense worse. Because Davis Mills at least wasn't turning the ball over that much, and Kyle Allen is. And Brandon Cooks is out, and they got nothing out there. So, and Dameon Pierce, I guess, has just hit the wall. He looked better today, but still, you know, yeah, I think we can go ahead and confidently say, okay, who are we going to stream against Houston? We thought it might be the Rams, but right now I guess I would rather go against Houston than the Rams offense. Rams offense at least kind of showed up today. But yeah, it always feels good when all your guys go off and not the other team. All right. How about this? A little real life. Bengals, y'all see, just went final. Bengals did take down the Chiefs. You know what? Bengals, they've got a shot. I think they played Buffalo, and then they've got another divisional matchup left. I think they play Baltimore maybe later. I mean, there's a path for Cincinnati to get the number 1 seed still since they beat Kansas City. Who knows? Maybe they do go back to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying for sure, but they did this without Mixon. Chase just coming off an injury. I mean, I don't know. They managed to keep Kelsey in check. So Cincinnati, you got to be pretty pleased with that. Joe Cool owning Mahomes, man. I don't know. I'm gonna tilt some Kansas City fans and some Mahomes fans about that. Look, these two guys don't have like a long history, so I can't say there's ownage yet, but it's becoming a trend, that's for sure. All right, what else? Marcos Cardozo needs 20 from Olave and Suckup. Hey, look, Greg Zuerlein kicked 5 field goals today. A couple of weeks ago, we saw a kicker with 6 field goals. You could get 20 from a kicker alone. You probably won't, but Olave, I mean, he's not the worst. I think you could do it. You could definitely do it. And then talking about Pacheco on the bench, it wasn't a smash spot for him, and we weren't crazy about Pacheco this week. And look, he was good. I mean, obviously scoring a touchdown always helps, but actually what I like about seeing what I saw from Pacheco today is he caught some passes. I mean, that's something he really hadn't been doing too much, which is weird because he can. I mean, it's not like it's a weakness of his. I don't know why they hadn't. I mean, I guess this offense really just doesn't dump it off that much to the running backs in general. And then they have McKinnon. That's kind of more his role, right? That's always been his thing. But Pacheco, looking up, he caught a couple passes for 16 yards. Not a lot, but he got the same number of targets as McKinnon. So that's something. It wasn't a huge game from Pacheco, right? It was 66 yards in the ground, 16 in the air. So without the touchdowns, like, you probably would have been fine without him. So don't feel bad, leaving him. McKinnon scored a touchdown too, but Hunter Perez, Kittle so bad. I don't think that's what it is. Kittle is actually really good. I think maybe having Brock Purdy for the whole game probably didn't help. This should have been a smash spot for Kittle. Like, who knows? It probably could have been a smash game for Kittle, but his starting quarterback was out like the whole game. And so this is exactly what I said. I can't remember if it was this morning with the patrons or maybe it was last night. We saw Debo go off last year because, again, you remember, Kittle did miss some time. Ayuk spent half the year in the doghouse last year. And then, of course, they didn't have CMC. They had Eli Mitchell. And then, he wasn't there all season. They didn't have really a dependable backup running back. They needed Debo. Like, Debo was their offense for most of last season. He was the guy. And this year, now they have so many other options. They don't need to lean on Debo. I feel like this week they kind of feel like, okay, we need to lean on Debo because, again, our backup running back is Jordan Mason, undrafted free agent, who, by the way, looks pretty good today, right? He actually got some chunk yardage because, they're not too worried about Jordan Mason when CMC's off the field. But still, he looked pretty good. I feel like it was easier for a guy like Purdy to get those short passes into Debo, get a couple of runs to Debo. I feel like he's kind of like their safety valve there. So, again, Kittle, I know you're frustrated, but again, that's just kind of how this game went. And realistically, because Dolphins offense couldn't get a lot going, really didn't need to pass as much either. Besides the fact, of course, you have Brock Purdy, a rookie, making his first extended appearance. So game script just happened to favor guys like CMC and Debo and not Kittle and Ayuk. So that's just how it is. Etienne is bad. Guys, these players aren't bad. They're good players. Just didn't do good things for your fantasy team today. Look, it was a smash spot for Etienne. It was Detroit, but what happened? They wound up losing, I think, 40-14. Detroit put up so many points. They couldn't run the ball enough to make Etienne worth it. So if you want to talk efficiency-wise, if you look, he averaged 4.2 yards per carry. That's not bad. He only got the ball 13 times. Why did he only run the ball 13 times? Because they were losing pretty much all game long. So they just couldn't really stick to the running game. That's pretty much the end of it. So it just happens. I think I would be more inclined to say, maybe not bad, but like Trevor Lawrence just really isn't the real deal. Like, he isn't a guy who's going to keep them in a game. That's a game that, look, if you're the number one pick and you're a guy who's a franchise quarterback, you shouldn't be letting your team get rolled on by Detroit. You should be able to answer and respond. Didn't do that. 14 points against Detroit. All right, what about Samaje Perine? Yeah, should mention him. It was logical pivot because Mixon was out. I know some of you who picked up Perine are like, please, Mixon be out again. Look, Perine surprised even me. I thought he's a solid start, like almost a must start if Mixon is out. But 100 yards, 106 on the ground. Yeah, didn't see that coming. And also 6 catches for 49 yards. That'll do. And remember, he did this without really getting in the end zone versus a couple of weeks ago against Tennessee. He got in the end zone 3 times. That touchdown upside is always there. Now, Cincinnati has a really tough schedule going forward. That's the thing. But it looks like Perine now, even if you thought, I just need him just for this week, or you look, well, Mixon comes back next week, maybe. I'm holding Perine if I have him because, number one, you see he is a high-end handcuff. Okay, so I would hold him no matter what. And even if you don't start him next week, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see Perine a little more involved now, even with Mixon coming back, which I assume Mixon's coming back. So, let's see. Ed, really happy. Hey, that right there, that's what we want, Ray. The trophy, we want everyone to come away with a trophy. Trust me, that is the goal. But glad that we're helping. This is a fair question. James Biggs, what has happened to Henry in the last 2 weeks? Like, I think I had him ranked way too high. I mean, it doesn't really matter because like you're never not starting him, obviously. So it doesn't matter. Rankings don't mean anything. But I thought this would be a spot for him to really go off. Philly's run defense has been very suspect. You know Tennessee was going to want to give it to him as much as possible. They just got smashed so hard by Philly on offense. I guess they felt like they couldn't. And they didn't really throw the ball that much either. They just didn't have the ball enough. But yeah, 30 yards for Derrick Henry. That's disappointing. But again, I think this is just they went into Philly and they just got overwhelmed in every area, right? Their defense is usually pretty stout. Nah, they got destroyed. Running game didn't work. Passing game didn't. Nothing worked. So this was just a game where Tennessee just got crushed by a better team. That's it. So there you go. All right, what is up, Tyler? For betting, can Dallas win by 11? I mean, yeah, you could see it happening, but I don't know if I would put money on that. I don't feel comfortable going anything over 10, even 10, a little bit of a stretch, unless I feel like it's a colossal mismatch. I mean, Indy has been playing at least with some pride lately. Their defense really hasn't been as bad. So, and I'm really not feeling this to be a big scoring game in general anyways. And so that's why I've been talking about guys like, Lamb, there's no question, right? But like Pollard, I think he's fine. He's a solid star. He's still always kind of very low and RB2-ish, but not a guy I feel compelled necessarily to start. Zeke, very fringe. Anybody besides Lamb, like Schultz is good for a tight end, but I'm not going to flex him like we had the question earlier over another receiver with upside or somebody else. And then Gallup and all those. So I don't feel like I don't see Dallas putting up a ton of points. And Indy at least will do something to respond. I feel like they can keep it within 10. So if it's me, I'm not feeling compelled to go with Dallas by 11. All right, now this is offensive. Who is Waddle overrated? Okay. You do realize, guys, that Waddle, if maybe you don't know, Waddle left the game early on with a leg injury. Didn't come back until third quarter. And then third quarter, if you were seeing, he did get that catch across the middle. And as he was going off, he was kind of limping to the sideline. So he didn't do anything today because he was hurt. That's it. Who knows? Maybe if he's out there more of the game, maybe things go better for the Dolphins. So now this is Tristram. I know he's our Dynasty guy who does Dynasty. He does also IDP. More people need to do IDP. But I don't think I'm going to convince too many people of that. Okay, so in Dynasty, loading up for next year, get Cam Akers from the wire that drops CEH. Look, even as bad as everything has been in a Dynasty league, I'm surprised Cam Akers is just out there in the waiver wire. I mean, this is a 12-team league at least, but still, I would. Now, again, I don't know. I know we don't go like way back, but anybody who knows since the day CEH was drafted by the Chiefs, I said, he's going to be overrated. Not that he's terrible. Never say he's terrible, but because he's on the Chiefs, everyone's going to just expect him to be this superstar player. No, not happening. And you see, even before he was hurt, let's not forget, he lost his starting job to a rookie, Isaiah Pacheco. Not one of the first rookie running backs drafted either. He was, what, 5th, 6th round, 7th round? I don't know. I would do that. Cam Akers is looking kind of mediocre this year for the most part, but he's still fresh off his Achilles injury. He'll be a little bit better next year. This Rams offense line is terrible. Hopefully it's better next year. Matt Stafford hopefully plays next year along with Cooper Kupp and everything else. I would definitely pick up Cam Akers. Now, am I going to talk about Cam Akers picking up, in a redraft league this year? on my waiver wire video that's coming out tomorrow. Maybe. You have to watch and find out. All right. Let's see. Oh yeah. Could I forget? I haven't talked about Deshaun Watson yet. All right, Deshaun Watson. Anybody who watched the Saturday start sit show, and all of our patrons who were with us this morning, we pretty much said over and over. We got a lot of Deshaun Watson questions, which is understandable, because it was his first game, but also it was Houston, and so I think it was maybe one out of like the 30 Deshaun Watson questions. Maybe once did we say, okay, go with Watson, because I think the other option was like Ryan Tannehill or somebody like that, right? Maybe it was Mike White. I don't know. Hadn't played basically in a game for almost 2 years in an actual real NFL game. Hasn't been with the team practicing half the year. Okay, wasn't allowed to. Has no chemistry with his receivers. Yeah, it was a smash spot, but also, were they going to really need to throw the ball with Deshaun Watson against Houston? No, clearly they didn't. And were they going to want him to go out and throw the ball that much? So, now one thing I would say I probably maybe overestimated, well, I know I overestimated Amari Cooper's involvement, because I thought, well, he is still startable. And look, he only needs one big play, one touchdown to pay off. It didn't happen. So I guess I could have been a little more down on Cooper, but it's so hard to sit a guy like that. But Deshaun Watson, yeah, we told you guys, just no, hold off. We always, when these guys were first acting, this is a big name player. This is a guy who's been a fantasy stud, right? Obviously, this led the league in passing, but that was a couple of years ago. So the first game back, you don't have to put them in your lineup. And I really hope nobody put Jameson Williams in their lineup, because we said, don't do it. Don't do it. All right, so I know it's exciting to have these guys, but yeah, Deshaun Watson will be better going forward. Is he going to be a stud? Is he going to be a no-doubt starting quarterback the rest of the season? Not necessarily. I think we kind of have to take a wait-and-see approach. So one week at a time. All right, and I'm seeing a lot of the Garrett Wilson and Mike White talk, probably because I mentioned it at the beginning. Is he a league winner? Look, I'm not going to say no. Like, look at what Jamar Chase did down the stretch last year. Now, is Garrett Wilson Jamar Chase? No, but is he? Can we say he's too far off at this point with the numbers he's putting up? He didn't have Joe Burrow throwing it to him, the number one pick. He's got Mike White. Even with Joe Flacco, he's been putting up numbers. He's been doing it since the beginning of the season. The only time he didn't put up numbers was with and because of Zach Wilson. So, man, I'm really close. We're gonna talk. Probably not this week. Let's give it one more week, but it's really close to just saying, like, look, just no doubt, just start Garrett Wilson. But there's another guy that a rookie receiver. You probably know who I'm talking about. Well, I'm just putting him in there. I'm going to say, look, Chris, we cannot tell people that they can't start him. So you'll see that in the wide receiver start sit. All right, Kelsey, maybe a Jags fan, maybe a Trevor Lawrence fan. I did see that. I know. I did see that. He got wrapped up, and, people were saying, like, looked really bad. But he did come back. And it wasn't an issue. So I don't think that the injury had anything to do with it. But here's the other thing, Kelsey, is what about the first half before? Because that happened that was like the last play of the second quarter, right before halftime. In the first half of that game, like he hadn't done anything. So I really don't think it was the injury. James, never going to play Kittle over Schultz again. Well, we don't know what Schultz is going to do this week. What if Schultz gets you one catch for 5 yards? You're probably not going to say that. But look, I think that you're going to have to play matchups, because obviously if Jimmy G's out, then yeah, you should worry about Kittle. Don't go dropping Kittle. So again, he's been disappointing lately, even before this week, right? I get that, but things change. All right, Jason, what's up, Jason? Well, again, Schultz hasn't done anything yet, so let's not say that was, such a bad mistake. I'm not expecting a huge Schultz game. Maybe he does something, maybe he doesn't. These guys are going to wind up being pretty close down the stretch. Again, if you have these two, I would just say this, honestly, be glad you have these choices. Be glad you're not picking between, Austin Hooper and Robert Tonyan or guys like that. I mean, it could be worse. It's tight end. Trust me. You have these two guys. at least you have options. Some people don't because there's not that many really good tight ends. Okay, here's a good one. Ernesto Cavazos, welcome. Down by 30, but you have JT and Pittman. Should you start White instead of JT? No. Even though I don't expect this to be a great JT week, you can't sit him in favor of, well, almost anybody. But yeah, instead of White, no, because JT is it. He's the only, show in town there. And White is going to be sharing some time, obviously, with Fournette. Again, I like White. I'm not sitting him, not too worried about him, but I don't have him top 10. JT's still top 10. So no. Keep JT, keep Pittman. I mean, I can't say I'm optimistic for you, but you're not out of it. You definitely have a shot. You never know with JT. He's good enough. He could come up with a big game. And some people keep asking, Kenny Walker, what's the status? It's too early to say. Don't know. Obviously, he didn't come back in the game. So going to have to see. Usually we don't get a lot of these updates and insights until Monday morning. Sometimes we don't really get a lot of clarity until Tuesday or Wednesday when teams start practicing, and then we'll see if they're out there or not. If he's not out there practicing midweek, okay, then start worrying and then say, okay, well, if he's not out there by Friday, then you make other plans. But yeah, not sure yet. Just know that we're going to have to be prepared for him to miss a game potentially, but hopefully that would be it. All right, let's talk about Hurts. Is he him? I think he is. And a guy you're definitely glad to have. I mean, this was against a pretty good defense. And Philly, you know what? Maybe not going to go undefeated, but they're still look like the best team in the league. And I know a lot of people talking about A.J. Brown. How would you say he's not a must start anymore? We didn't say not to start him. Didn't say he's not a good start. It's just he's not a guy you can just blindly say no matter what, because he has a lot of down games. But again, 95% of the time you're starting A.J. Brown. And I only say that because there are some leagues out there where people have choices like, A.J. Brown or CeeDee Lamb, like, A.J. Brown or T. Higgins. It's not always going to be A.J. Brown. This week, it was obviously a good spot to start A.J. Brown. But yeah, he was definitely motivated today. I think and the Eagles were clearly motivated to get him the ball. Not surprising though. All right, let's see. Ryraps, what is up? Been very active today in the chat. Down by 13. The opponent has Pollard. I have JT, Schultz, and the D. All right, you should win. I mean, you figure JT should be more valuable than Pollard for sure. You only need a few points then from your tight end and your defense. Tampa Bay's defense alone could get 13 because, man, New Orleans has been really bad. With Andy Dalton, he's probably good for a pick or two. So not feeling any huge Pollard game. I think you've got a good shot. And our biggest fan, I don't know if can we call you a fanboy? The bus loves the fantasy end game. Cortland Sutton was droppable 2 weeks ago. I said it, I meant it, and I mean it even more so now. I don't want anything to do with this Denver offense, period, like at all, because it's not just one thing. It's everything. It's the problem is potentially the head coach and the starting quarterback. Yeah, things aren't going to get better. Things are not going to get better. You can drop Cortland Sutton for sure. All right. We got Kyle Grove. Here we go. Full PPR, down 16. Do I go with Rachaad White or Michael Pittman? I mean, this is make or break. If this is all you got left, I mean, I kind of like Rachaad White better this week. The thing was with Pittman, you're hoping for a big game. I don't see Pittman having a lot of success, not because of the cornerback matchup. We know Trevon Diggs is a gambler, right? He'll give up the big play. He'll make the big play. Hasn't been making as many big plays this year. But again, Pittman kind of needs that volume. He's a different type of receiver. He's not, like a Tyler Lockett even. I'm not going to say Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase, right? he's not even like a Tyler Lockett who can catch it and go. And, he needs target volume. And then he kind of will need a touchdown. I don't know that Matt Ryan will have enough time to get the ball off with Micah Parsons in his face repeatedly. I don't feel like Pittman can come through with a big game tonight. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, if he scores a touchdown, yeah, he could get you there to 16. But I like the fact with Rachaad White, who I feel has equally good chance to score a touchdown based on his matchup. I feel like he's got that floor also. He's going to get you a few points just from pass catching. He could catch as many passes as Pittman. And I think somebody had this exact same question earlier because I feel like I'm saying this again. I could see Rachaad White catching as many passes as Pittman and then also going for rushing yardage with his receiving yardage. I'm going to go White. And again, yes, he's not going to be as valuable as last week or before with Fournette out, but I still think he's fine. And then, okay, so speaking of Rachaad White, Penguin, who do you like better rest of the season, Rachaad or Swift? I think it has to be Swift. I mean, if you told me Leonard Fournette was out like rest of the season, then maybe I'd go Rachaad White, but he's not. But also, what did we see today from Swift? What we've been waiting for all year long. Okay, he didn't even get all of the touches because Jamal Williams was still there. I think Jamal Williams got like 11 carries. Of course, he gets the goal line carries, but these guys are both scoring touchdowns, both of them. And Detroit's offense has actually been doing pretty well. Swift is going to be the guy who catches passes just like White does. So I think it's got to be Swift. I'm not going to go so far as to say, yes, he's arrived as a league winner, but you can see it, right? You saw a glimpse today. He could become that guy. So I feel like now Swift is almost a must start. Almost there. This one, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big betting man necessarily, but I'm a little pessimistic about this one. 68 just from Kamara. I'm probably going to have to say no to that one. ASM, this one's a little closer. Need 27 from Olave and Pollard. I can't feel great about that. I don't feel like Olave's in the best spot. The Tampa Bay better on run defense and pass defense, but they're still a decent pass defense. They're not slouches there. I think he'll get a lot of Jamel Dean, who is actually one of the better rated cornerbacks. I know some people aren't crazy about PFF's grading system, but it's pretty much the best we got. And Jamel Dean has been up there pretty much all year long as one of the top rated corners. And so not a shutdown defense necessarily, but if you look at the Bucs, they're kind of middle of the pack. I just wish he had a better quarterback. I know I keep saying that. Olave is one of those guys also I feel is really yet to be unlocked. And even I would even take like Mike White over Andy Dalton at this point in that offense, but they have bigger problems also, that whole offensive system. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little worried about your matchup this week. And then here, Dread up 17, but your opponent has Kamara and Pittman. I do think you have a chance. Yeah, Waddle getting hurt, Walker getting hurt. I mean, look, when 2-year stud get hurt and give you almost nothing, it hurts. But look, not expecting a lot from Kamara. You guys know this. We told almost everyone you can't play Kamara this week. Maybe he goes off. I doubt it. I really doubt it. And I'm not, expecting a lot from Pittman either. So I do still think you're in it. I feel decent. All right. Of course, you can ask a Dynasty question, Tristan. Of course you can. Goddard or Schultz long-term? I still got to go with Goddard. I mean, obviously in the system he's in, he's getting a lot of usage. Schultz, remember, he's a guy that the contract is still an issue. We don't know where he's going to be long-term. So it's hard to know for sure if he is going to be still with Dallas. And if he isn't, where's the fit, right? Where's the fit? Is he going to be utilized as much? I mean, if he stays in Dallas, let's pretend that he does. I'm still going Goddard. Goddard has been always an exceptional receiving talent. I mean, his injury really disrupted what could have been kind of a breakout season. He was really solid. He was a guy who was kind of a must-start at tight end. So I'm going Goddard. What is up, Joe? Oh, Guapo today. Saw you this morning. Clinched the 1 seed. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, Devontae. Dude, it was you, right? Wasn't it you, Joe? Remember a couple weeks ago you were worried about Devontae, and you're like, should I trade Devontae? I'm like, no way. Just don't do it. So, yeah. Don't do that. Okay, what's up, Nate? All right, Nate wants to know, can Lamb outscore Fournette by 8+? Definitely he can do that. Not guaranteed, but I definitely think that could happen. Jason, okay, so talking about going with your gut, you said your gut was telling you to go Schultz over Kittle. Yeah, look, and that might prove to have been the right call this week. But again, with Kittle, I think a lot of it was fluky. This really could have been a big game for Kittle, and then Jimmy G went out. So you never know. You can't say that the process was bad there. I mean, things happen that you never expect in football, obviously. We don't know what Schultz is going to do today. Whatever he does, it probably will be more than Kittle. But again, I think the game plan had to shift with Brock Purdy at quarterback. So I don't think starting Kittle over Schultz was a bad decision necessarily, just a bad result. Maybe. And then Lander bench Dulcich and Swift over Conklin and Walker. Again, keeping Walker in your lineup, you had to do it. The fact that he got hurt, it's just bad luck. I mean, you can't be upset over starting Walker. You can be upset that he got hurt, but there's nothing you can do about that. So you just have to take that. Dulcich, look, come on. You can never be upset over sitting Dulcich or any guy who's on the Denver Broncos. Conklin was worth a dice roll. You know, it's not like Dulcich went off. He gets you a few points at least. Conklin didn't do anything. So it happens. All right, let's see. We got any questions for tonight or tomorrow night? We've had a few already. Look, I won't get into the whole T-Law. I'm not hating on Trevor Lawrence. Just saying he doesn't look like he's going to be a stud, a franchise quarterback. He's not Joe Burrow. That's it. Like, he's fine. He's fine. He's just not going to be – he's not breaking out. He's not, looking special in any way. That's all I'm saying. And then let's see. CJ in Santa Cruz. Had Lamar and Walker in, sat McLaurin. Yeah, Lamar, that injury definitely hurts. What can you do? Now, McLaurin, I will say I was kind of pleasantly surprised / disappointed because did not expect a lot out of him in this game. Look, Taylor Heineke loves him some Terry McLaurin, but he hadn't been going to him, or at least they hadn't been having success the last couple weeks, including against Atlanta. Remember, that was an absolute smash spot against the Falcons. He didn't really do much. So for him to do that against the Giants was a little surprising. But yeah, McLaurin is a guy who definitely has some upside. I don't know who you sat him for, so it kind of depends. I don't know if I believe that, Bus. Okay, did maxing out my pickups. Well, yeah, you can't burn all. If you have a limit on your pickups for the whole season, which some leagues do that, I'm not a fan of that, but I get it. All right, so if you have a limit, you can't burn them before the playoffs because guys get hurt. And I think really the bigger mistake there is having Jimmy G as your quarterback. If that's the case, like he's been fine. I don't know if it's a deep league, competitive league where quarterbacks are hard to come by or whatever, but yeah. And Jimmy G is definitely a guy who tends to get hurt sometimes. We know that. So is Watson a drop? Well, look, if you just picked him up to stream him, I don't know who else you have a quarterback, Masala. If you have somebody else, I mean, I hope you got somebody else startable because obviously you've been starting somebody for the past 12 weeks. So I don't feel like you have to keep Watson is what I'm saying here. but it depends who your other option is. Like if you're saying it's somebody like White, no, I'd rather have Watson. Ryan Tannehill, no, I'd rather have Watson. Trevor Lawrence, I'd rather have Watson. But if you have somebody who's at least solid, like a Kirk Cousins type, a Geno Smith type, yeah, you don't have to hold Deshaun Watson. All right, let's see. Week 14. We're going with the Week 14 questions already. A little early for this. Zonovan Knight or Pacheco. Without getting too much into it, and I'm kind of setting up for next week. Let me see. Pacheco gets the Broncos on the road. Not a great matchup. I'd still rather have Pacheco. I think the Jets going on the road against the Bills. I'm going to go Pacheco. I'm going to go Pacheco there. And he's the guy pretty much. Yeah, Zonovan Knight was pretty much the guy, though, for the Jets. He did get most of the carries. So, all right. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, this did stand out, too. That's right. Drake London had a game. Go figure. Now, is this going to continue? I'm a little leery because remember last week it was like Olamide Zaccheaus who was getting more touches than Drake London. And Drake London's been there all year. Like this is not something new. Like what are you waiting for, Marcus Mariota? Drake London is really good and he's been there all year. And we're seeing, I think it's especially tilting. You see Michael Pruitt, the backup tight end, or actually I think he's the backup tight end. It's like the Anthony Ferkser, get touchdowns, and Kyle Pitts never did that. So it was encouraging, but I'm definitely taking it with a grain of salt. And I'm also thinking he probably won't do that next week because the Falcons are on bye. So it was good. It was good to see. Maybe something gets figured out. Who knows? But, man, this Falcons offense, I'm borderline avoiding players on that team too. It's just disappointing. All right, let's see. Up 8 points. This is Suffolk. Up 8 points with Pittman and Rashad. The opponent has Olave and the Cowboys D. Well, I'm glad you're up. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. I like Olave a little better than Pittman, but not necessarily thinking Olave is going to go off. And yeah, I would rather have Rashad White than a defense. So I think you're good. You never know, but at least you have that little buffer. I think that's what gives you the edge. There's Michael. What's up, Michael? Tyler Lockett saved the day for you. It's always, I think you can agree, it's always a little extra sweet when it's one of your own guys from your team, right? Seahawks. And man, you got to be happy watching Lockett and DK go off and Geno cook. All right. Mushin. Give Mike Williams for Garrett Wilson. That's interesting. All right. I'm glad some people still have some trades active here. Now, Mike Williams and one of our patrons, Julio, is really wondering whether you should keep Mike Williams, drop a guy. I think it's pretty obvious now, Julio. You can, if you're watching, yeah, you can drop Jeff Wilson if Mike Williams is out there. But look, I'd rather have Garrett Wilson at this point because Mike Williams, we know the foot, has been bothering him, the ankle there. He's going to come back pretty soon. But Garrett Wilson, he's clear in a way the number one guy, a target hog. And now Keenan Allen is back. Mike Williams, let's remember, before he was a guy who was boom bust, right? One of these guys, kind of like an Amari Cooper type, would give you a huge week and then give you a dud. Then give you a huge week and then give you a dud. That's kind of what he's going to be. So I'd rather take the guy who's just being a target hog, and I'd rather go Garrett Wilson. So, yeah, I would do that. Okay, so now I'm hearing – well, yeah, that's true. All these people saying that Jimmy G is out for the year, but I'll believe it. I'll look this up. I'm not going to get into it. I'll look this up after the show is over. We got a few more minutes here. I know the kickoff is coming soon, so I'll do any more start-sit questions we got. So catching up here. Okay, so this is what we're seeing. Scott saying that Kyle Shanahan actually said it in the press conference that Jimmy G is out for the year. If that's the case, I mean, obviously that changes a lot of things. Now people are asking about Trey Lance. I'm gonna be looking into that. I don't expect Trey Lance obviously to play, and I haven't heard anything about Trey Lance playing. So no. Am I picking up Brock Purdy? Probably not. But this would shift things, as we just talked about. Deebo Samuel now becomes more interesting. I'm a little worried about guys, actually more like Brandon Ayuk, because the Jimmy G Ayuk connection was definitely coming through. So, all right, let's keep going. Would I keep Sutton at Dynasty? Yeah, you have to. I mean, even though Russell Wilson is locked into this massive contract for however many years, it looks like they're going to be getting a new coach next year, so maybe that will change things. Look, something's got to change. Sutton is a talented player. He's not necessarily going to be stuck in that same situation for his whole career. Keep Sutton in the Dynasty. Now, if you can trade him for somebody comparable, sure, but don't drop him or anything like that. Cerulean Dog, what is up? Got CD and Cowboys defense left, down 17. You should be feeling pretty good, I think, especially given the matchup tonight. Yeah, Sutton. Look, Elijah Moore, those 2 catches he had, better than Sutton. That's all that matters, right? You got the W there, and we went spicy, and it paid off, didn't it? Yep, 2 catches for 7 yards for Elijah Moore, better than Cortland Sutton. Yeah, Cortland Sutton targeted once. Not just that he didn't catch a single pass, he was only targeted once. Congratulations, Russell Wilson. You have rendered your offense completely inept. Is Swift good to plug in from now on? Yeah. I mean, again, you got 2 stud running backs, but otherwise you should pretty much be, and at the very least, you have him as a high-end flex. I mean, it's hard to imagine too many guys that have more upside than DeAndre Swift for the most part. So J Eggs, too soon. Too soon to ask all those questions. Ask me again on Saturday about next week's Superflex start sit. Yeah, you gotta love that Browns defense, that's for sure. Man, I mean, again, you hate for a defense to kind of decide a matchup, but I guess if you went with Cleveland defense, good choice. Good on you for doing that. All right, Trevor Bergen. Got a first round bye on lock. Very nice. Jimmy G, Stafford, Waller. Yeah, Walker's the one that hurts there. Getting ugly. Okay, well, Stafford not coming back. I mean, obviously, that's a drop. If Jimmy G really is out for the season, which I'm going to go check and confirm in a few minutes, you're going to have to pivot at QB. Drop a comment here and let us know who do you have available, or you can wait till Tuesday if you want on the Tuesday show. Who's out there on waivers for quarterback? There's got to be somewhere you can go. I'm not keeping Waller, by the way. I mean, maybe you have an extra IR spot and he's just occupying it, and it's not hurting you. But I'm really not counting on Waller to do anything, even if he comes back this year, which I'm not counting on either. And Walker, we just got to hope for the best. G Ghost, what is up? Let's look at that team. Man, you had the Sun God and Adams and Watson, along with Diggs. I think you're pretty safe. Well, I shouldn't say this, but maybe start making room for the trophy right now. But yeah, you never know what happens in fantasy. So don't get ahead of yourself. Fabulous. Up 20. Opponent got Godwin and Pittman left. I'm a lot more worried about Godwin than Pittman. I feel like Pittman maybe double digits, maybe not. Godwin, I feel pretty confident he gets double digits and then some. So I would worry, but you never know, right? So Godwin's the one I would definitely be worried about. Yeah, and I said this too in Isaac in the Discord. I mean, I made bids for him, but obviously somebody outbid me. I should have bid more. Did not think that he would be scoring about 2 touchdowns a game. Didn't see that coming. And it's funny because he's a guy that pre-draft, I mean, of course you love the combine numbers and all that, but can't get carried away with 40 times. But I loved what he had to offer, and going picked by the Packers. I thought, oh man, there's a path. I could see him being a stud. And then he was dropping the ball in training camp, and then he was hurt. And then, of course, beginning of the year, he did nothing. So I was like, yeah, okay, this guy is not going to contribute this year, I'm kind of out on him, not super interested. And then now I'm seeing why I remember why I was so excited about him way back. So you have to start him. You have to start him going forward. League winner is not an exaggeration at this point. Dan Henry, come back, Dan. Sometimes it giveth. It just won the Suck Bowl. I'm interested. What's the Suck Bowl? Had Walker, Etienne, and Herbert. He had Lamar. Man, all right. So sometimes you kind of win by default, is what you're saying. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Sounds like you were lucky this week. You got your bye. Look, don't complain. You can celebrate. It's okay to celebrate lucky victories too. I think you're entitled to do that. All right, so here's somebody who is rooting hard for the Cowboys. I hope you're a Cowboys fan. I'm assuming you are a Cowboys fan if you have this much invested in your fantasy team. You got Dak, Schultz, and Zeke. Down 38. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, look, Dallas has been putting up points, as someone mentioned earlier, since week 11. They're one of the highest scoring teams, but we'll see. Brock Purdy, a lot of Brock Purdy talk. Like, he was fine. What I'd like to see is that he actually, something Jimmy G doesn't do, is he's a little bit mobile on his feet. He was scrambling out of the pocket when there was pressure, and he made that one really nice throw, even though it was only like a 5-yard throw. He rolled out to his right, and it looked like a guy was in his face. He kind of sidearm slung it, and he caught, I think it was Debo, and it was just a small gain, but he made something out of it, and he was quick on his feet. And that's why, he didn't look rattled. He didn't look like he was a guy forcing the ball in there. And he has got a little mobility, which Jimmy D does not. So, he's not going to put up rushing yards. Don't get me wrong. But, yeah. Sarp now, not loving today. UNC football and basketball fan, and I guess didn't have the best week for fantasy, I'm guessing. Look, I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan for football. I'm ready for basketball season. So, yeah. Although we did nail a big recruit today. I don't know how. Mario Cristobal, I guess, just an elite recruiter, not necessarily coach. Chris KD, down 25. You have Evan Schultz and a kicker. Opponent has Zeke. Yeah, you can do it. Again, I think Evans will be fine. Schultz will be fine. A kicker can always get you some points. Not thinking Zeke is going to, have a huge game. This one's going to be close. So I have a feeling this is going to come down to the wire. Really. So I'm going to root for Mike Evans. And then I know kickoff is happening pretty soon. Do a couple more. Almost caught up here. RJ Colo, does Mr. Irrelevant help CMC? This is exactly what I said in the Discord chat. This is the guy that gets helped. Debo is the guy that gets helped. Kittle, I think he can worry a little bit. I know people are panicking because he didn't do anything, but he's still somebody you can start. Ayuk is the guy I'm going to be down on probably more than I was before. So it definitely helps CMC. I mean, you saw, I don't think it's a fluke that CMC happened to go off, for probably, I don't know, his best game since he joined the 49ers. I'm going to have to go back and compare, but I don't think it's a fluke that he got used more. 17 carries, 66 yards, 10 targets. Debo, 10 targets. Why are CMC and Debo now getting all these targets when Kittle and Ayuk? Well, Ayuk did get a fair amount of targets, just didn't connect all of them. Because it's easier to check the ball down to your running back and your H-back/receiver Debo. It's easier to put the ball in their hands and let them do the work. And that's what, good offensive coordinators do. They play to the strengths of their personnel. And so, yes, I think this does help CMC. That's exactly what I think. And that's a good observation. All right, Kathy from Hilo Photo and Video. Had Kelsey, Waddle, Chubb, Stevenson, and they all tanked. Stevenson at least got you a few points. Chubb, didn't have a Chubb day. Waddle hurt. Kelsey, once in a while that will happen with Kelsey, but you got a good team. I mean, look at those players. You've got a good team, just with a bad day. So forget this day happened, move forward, try to win week 14. Noah with a good question. Is Watson even startable? You started Watson over Geno. Well, I wouldn't have done that. I have Geno ranked a little higher, and now have a playoff elimination match next week. Yeah, if you're in an elimination game next week, I'm not starting Deshaun Watson. It's too much risk. And again, I said this earlier. We were telling everyone don't roll with Deshaun Watson unless you just really don't have any reliable option. So, nah, an elimination game, there's no way I'm rolling out Deshaun Watson next week. All right, so is that true? Kelsey has a cold? I don't know. And let's do one more. Oh, man. You got Dak. Marco has Dak and JT down by 50. My opponent got DeForest Buckner and the Honey Badger. IDP. I love it. Yeah, you're down by 50. Sorry. There's always next week, though. All right, guys. The game is about to start, so good luck. The rest of week 13, don't forget, on Tuesday night, we'll be with you to answer all those waiver wire questions. Those big injuries this week, you're definitely going to need some replacements. You're going to need to look forward. And you're getting ready for the playoffs. You have to still be active. You have to. Don't stop now. Don't rest. We want everyone to bring home those trophies. So we'll see you Tuesday night. And don't forget, our videos will start coming out for Start Sit the rest of this week. We got you covered. Check out the Discord if you haven't already joined it. It's free. And if you are new to our show, welcome. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know every time we are putting out a video or going live. And we will see you later.